Morning and Happy New Year.
Good morning and
Here.
happy new year.
Yay.
Happy New Year, George.
All right.
Georgia, I don't know what time the Supreme Court ruling is coming out, but it's supposed to be today sometime.
Yeah, I heard
Um,
it's 10.
oh shit. Oh God, we're gonna be on the phone call.
Yeah, I'll be on the call.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so
I'm
we'll
walking
see
into the
how that
office.
works. Yeah, there's
Oh God,
a lot going on today.
I know. I'm so nervous that I really loaded up on puts. So, and I
I
decided,
know you did.
hey, take more risk. Um,
Take more risk. It's 2026.
I know. Well, I got into that Western Digital because it just keeps going up. And Micron is like it's crazy, $329. But I did it really close.
To
I
the
may
money.
just oh, it's
Yeah.
9:30.
Yeah, it's 9:30.
Oh,
But
oh,
and this is a recorded conversation, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the market, and then we're going to
hmm,
have Daniel Diaz step in with us and join us. I see
okay.
Daniel's on the call now, so excellent.
Would you want me to just go quickly then? I'll go
Yeah,
ahead
let
and
me
run
just
down.
mention that Dennis is not going to be with us. He's coming back from the Las Vegas
CES.
yeah, and so he'll have some good conversation next week, maybe. Yeah, so this is going to be, we'll try and keep it right. I like to try and keep it 45 minutes, but we'll see how we do. We're going to get a couple of reports, and then we're going to dive into silver, gold, and crypto equals freedom. So there you go. All right, Patty, you're on, babe.
I'm nervous. The market is turning negative. Ratzola.
Really?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Really?
Okay. All right. I thought I'd start with we really didn't have a Santa Claus rally this year, and that's the third year in the row. It seemed like only retail traders were, the volumes were so low, were trading during the holidays. So that was kind of disappointing. Well, more than kind of, but so we'll see what happens this year. And let's see. Overall, things have been positive, though. The Dow cover or went above 49,000 on Tuesday. So now it's at 49,624. Well, we were positive. So yeah, it's still positive. It's up almost 200 points this morning. And the S&P is really close to 7,000. It's at 6,986. In the last 5 days, it's up more than 1%, 73 and a half points. The NASDAQ has been disappointing. I guess this is an indication it's going to be a stock picker's market because tech has not done well. It's been flat. About 9 o'clock, I checked again to see had the numbers changed, and it was down for the last 5 days, like 1.5%.
Hmm.
It's stuck at 23,480, and this morning it's at 23,488. Oh, it finally went positive, 0.04%. The Russell 2000 has done the best. You know, those are the small stocks, mostly not profitable. They are up in the last 5 days, 4.5%, 112 points. Gold and silver have done the best. So gold,
Yes,
yeah,
they have.
this morning it was 44.98. Then it popped down to 44.91. But in the last month, it's up over 6%, which is $255 and some change. And I checked the last 5 days, almost 2%, 1.72%, 76 points.
Wow.
Silver is up 4% in the last 5 days. It's
God.
hovering. It did hit 81, I think, and then it retreated, and it's been extremely volatile. So this morning when I checked, it was 78.24, And the dollar is just stuck at 98. It was down a penny this morning, 98.93. The 10-year was all over the place this morning. I was watching it around the jobs reports that was issued at 8:30.
8:30.
So we were like 4.187% up, and then it went down. So the last I checked, about 9:08 this morning, it was 4.175. Overall, it's pretty much stuck at 4.1, but let's see. It's not expected to move too much this year, even if there are rate cuts. The WTI crude, it's at 58.06. I'm not even going to get into all the Venezuelan stuff. The gas stocks popped on Monday. They went down on Tuesday. But the crude prices haven't changed much. So, as we mentioned, if you jumped on at like 9:28, the Supreme Court is expected to rule on the Liberation Day tariffs today. George said it might happen at noon, and I think that will really hit the market. If they have to, or even told or thought that they have to refund any of the money, then I think the market will sell off. If it, I'm sure that the Trump administration is going to figure out another way to do the tariffs, but that is going to move the market today. And then at 8:30 this morning, non-farm payrolls were issued. We had 50,000 new jobs added. The street expected 73,000 to be added, so it was slightly lower. I think the overall trend is that we can see that the labor market is cooling. On a positive note, though, unemployment in November was 4.6, and it got downgraded to 4.5. And then this morning, the December unemployment rate is 4.4%. So that was good. And year over year, hourly wages are up. They expected it to just be up 3.6%, but they're actually up 3.8%. And
Wow.
let's see, I didn't do a comparison on the job openings, but let's see, housing starts. Oh, shoot, I didn't write the verses. Housing is slowing down. Okay, sorry, I was watching and writing. But overall, the market, this week has been positive in spite of not having a good Santa Claus rally.
Kind of like crypto has kind of flat, but rising a little bit. But can I chime in on the tariffs? Anybody else want to chime in on the tariff decision today? And the only thing I just heard was some headlines, and one is that the only three-quarters of the tariffs that are in place are going to be included in this ruling, and so not 100%. And then evidently the administration already has a plan B to maintain these tariffs with other, but the problem is you have to address each one of them with a specific regulation. And so they've got a plan to keep the tariffs in place. They just have to do it through a different methodology, where the current ones had sort of an umbrella, and that's what they're ruling on, the use of that umbrella to impose tariffs on everything as opposed to imposing tariffs more targeted. So,
Hey, George,
yeah,
uh,
anybody else can chime in.
I just wanted to say a comment. Thanks for making those comments, because it just seems like every time we get a big court ruling, it's just never clear. It's just it's a partial win for some and a partial loss for others, and it's like, don't get too excited. It's there's other things. Wait for the flashback to come back. So anyway, but I'm
There you
glad you
go.
just made that point. Thanks.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
when I was
Well,
trying to find out about the time that it was, the decision was going to come out,
I thought it
it
was 10, and then they were going to do the White House is going to do a press conference at 11. We'll
oh,
see.
sorry, I even misreported what you said. Okay,
All
10
right.
o'clock.
All right,
Yikes.
Aaron.
Well, that's in 20 minutes. But the article, I was looking at Yahoo Finance to find that information out, and it said Prior to Liberation Day, the average tariff was 2.5%, and now it's 15%. So it is higher. And then yesterday I read an article. It's anticipated they're going to bring in 340 billion a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Patty. And I know you're going to be starting back work here soon next week, and
Mhm.
we want you to still continue to at least be with us, and we'll talk on the side on the other side about um,
Yeah.
what you want to focus on. But anyway, let's get over to Aaron, and then I'm gonna give a World Liberty Finance report real quickly. I'm not going to take any time at all on this, but Aaron, do you want to take a shot at it? I think you're on.
Yeah, hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, good deal. I got a bit of a cold, so bear with me. Yeah, I guess for Bitcoin and look at it from a macro kind of zoom out, we're kind of sitting right at this support level. You saw that kind of some green finally, and you got to that 93, 94 range, and people were screaming bull market again. But I think we're going to see this chop for a little bit. Um, there is a popular opinion too that 70K region, if this support doesn't hold, that we could potentially see that. And then there's the flip side with Tom Lee saying we're going to hit a new all-time high. So
Yeah.
again, volatile chop. Nobody knows what they're doing. As far as Bitcoin goes, I personally I think we'll chop a little bit more and get this sideways action. But if we do see that increase up through 93, 94, and it can hold and sustain, I see that continuing up into the 100K range. So, and then kind of just gauge it from there. But
Really.
I'm not even looking at it from like a lower time frame or like a micro level right now, or even trying to trade it. Um, just due to the sideways and the manipulation in the markets. If you see the 10 o'clock a.m. kind of manipulation too with Bitcoin, which you've seen that, and the market opens and in stocks and everything too, but now it's kind of playing its hand as more institutions get involved, more, the market opening, you can see that drastic, 10 a.m. drop or 10 a.m. pump and then drop or, vice versa. So it's pretty interesting. Um, also, I'm sure you're going to talk about it with World Liberty, with them filing for the bank charter. They're really pushing their founders. They're getting more involved with their stable coin, that USD1, which is pretty interesting, even on the meme coin scene. So they use the Bonk Launchpad, and even one of the founders, which, excuse my language, he kind of coined a phrase, which is one of the bigger coins, but it's shit piss skin can, which is
My
one of the
God.
most it's one of the most ridiculous, but it was taken. There's some sort of lore in this giant community, and I think they're going to push it just to get that popularity with USD1 and have these pairs. They're putting a lot of they're hiring a lot of people on crypto Twitter and putting a lot of funds into that to kind of make sure their stable coin is being used and pairing with these meme coins too. So it's kind of interesting to see them support that kind of, like, I guess, degen atmosphere from like a founder of a World Liberty. So keeping an
Hmm.
eye on that. Ethereum's, I don't know. I think it's a stable coin at this point. Nothing real exciting there, but I do think eventually you're going to see, that Clarity Act comes out and kind of opens the door for a lot of the DeFi projects and a lot of the altcoins, which we did kind of move forward with. Hey, we're getting closer and closer, so it's probably still 6 months away. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's really all I got.
That's
Can,
awesome.
can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
Yeah, go
Have
ahead.
you heard anything about the MSCI board meeting next week, January 15th, that any company that has more than 50% of its holdings in Bitcoin is going to be taken off that listing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, I didn't hear about that. I'd have to look it up.
Okay. I'm just nervous that it's going to, strategy has been more than cut in half. And I just wonder what's going to happen to that stock.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we'll take it. Thank you, Aaron. And then I just wanted to bring you up to a couple of updates on WLFI. And we know that's the Trump organization's crypto initiative. And that we have some South Carolina folks here, not on this call, but associated with us that are involved closely with that organization. And she kind of keeps us abreast of public information, but at least on our radar. So through a different call. But anyway, um, they've got three coming soon apps, if you will. So the first one is you'll be able to deposit crypto via a wallet or your bank account and spend it by accessing the liquidity at any time you want to. So that's up and coming. We know these are already done in um, other products or companies, but they're bringing on all these new things as they develop their platform. So the next one is going to be lend and borrow. You can supply digital assets, and then you can borrow against the holdings, and you can monitor that risk real time, is what they say. So we know that that's done, but now World Liberty is going to be able to offer that. And the last one is an exchange where you can quickly exchange your uh, other cryptos for USD1 or for WLFI, their token. So we've talked about their tokenization of real world assets and some other things that they're doing. And I don't want to take up a lot of time because I want to give the rest of the time to Daniel, who is going to be with us, who is with us today. And he's with the Citizens for Sound Money, but he's also quite interested in gold and silver as just an entity, not as necessarily money. I gave him some not talking points, but just suggested topics. We wanted to sort of focus on that. Uh, One of the overlying or umbrella issues is the freedom that we have is somewhat regulated by money, and money does control a lot of things. So if we see gold plus silver plus crypto equaling freedom, then maybe we can understand a little bit more about what's going on with the world and why gold and silver are important. And so, why don't we start out, Daniel? You can just say hey, and I think most everybody knows you. But why don't you start out by saying hey, and let's talk about a little bit about what money is and this fiat experience that actually is in its nascent stage, if you just think about it in terms of what money is. This fiat experience that we're in right now is untested territory. I'm gonna leave it to you to take it from there, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just a brief intro for any new people. My name is Daniel Diaz. I'm the executive director of Citizens for Sound Money, which is a 501(c)(4) organization that's its mission is to promote the use of sound money and protect people's rights to do so. And the way we protect people's rights is by passing legislation, make gold and silver legal tender, and getting rid of all the tax burdens to reduce the friction of using gold and silver as money. I'm also the executive director of Sound Money Movement, which is a 501(c)(3) educational foundation that teach people about financial literacy and sound money principles. The mission is to educate people of all generations on the necessity of sound money for a free economy and a free society to exist. And I'm also the transitional executive director of the Sound Money Trade Association, which is an association that is uniting the entire gold and silver industry because they're underrepresented in government, and they're basically a major lobby that hasn't had a voice. So with that said, let me get into what is money. I like using Adam Smith's definition because it's very clear. Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations define money with three characteristics. The first two characteristics aren't special. Everything is a medium of exchange, and everything is a unit of account. You can use anything as a medium of exchange. A dog, a cat, a hat, a dollar, gold. Anything can be a unit of account. Two hats, two dogs, 2 ounces of gold, two bitcoins. What differentiates money from everything else is a long-term store of value, meaning that the let's say 1 ounce of gold or 1 ounce of silver should be able to buy you the exact same thing today as it will 5 years from now, 50 years from now, 200 years from now. The dollar or any other currency is not money because it has purchasing power for a short period of time. You get paid $100 today, you'll be able to spend the $100 purchasing power today. And in a year, you're not going to be able to do that. So everything else is just currency, which is not a store of value. So the only two forms of money are gold and silver. They have proven that and tested. It's been tested throughout time for 6 millennia. We, the people, chose it. It was the first crypto. We, the people, chose gold and silver as currency, and the government hijacks it, just like the government hijacks everything. So the problem with fiat now is that throughout human history, we've had over 6,000 fiat currencies, and every single fiat currency has failed and reverted down to its intrinsic value of zero. And now is a different time. Since 1971, it is the first time in human history that the entire planet is on a fiat standard. And that is one of the main reasons we're seeing precious metals skyrocket. Gold and silver throughout the millennia has acted as an accounting measure against fiat currency, meaning that when the governments print more liquidity into the economy, gold and silver acts as an accounting measure of how much liquidity there is in the market. So since 2020, from 2020 to 2022, the US government printed 40% of all dollars ever printed in the history of our country. That is now being reflected as an accounting measure in gold and silver. It usually takes a few months to a few years for new liquidity that's printed by a government in fiat to be reflected in gold and silver. And that parabolic shot you're seeing in gold and silver, where in 2025, silver went up by over 160% and gold went up just slightly over 60%, is an exact representation of how much quantitative easing the US government has printed. Now, with the passing of the Genius Act, that is just another means of injecting inflation. So when the Federal Reserve passed in 1913, the opponents of the Federal Reserve put out some propaganda pieces or political pieces illustrating the Federal Reserve as an octopus. That octopus had the tentacles wrapping around the White House, the Capitol, the banks, the individual homes, every aspect of society, pulling and stealing the wealth of the people, and then vomiting, you'll see right in the center, the stock market, vomiting currency, the wealth stolen from the people, right into the stock market. So the stock market has always been an avenue of where inflation goes, and that's why the price to earnings ratio is unbelievably outbalanced. Typically, the PE ratio for a healthy company is about 1 to 5 to 1 to 15. Anything above 1 to 20 is overpriced. You should not have a price valuation of a stock at 150 to 200 times more than the earnings of that company. That's because the stock market has traditionally been the location where inflation has gone. In 2008, that changed. The charter of the Federal Reserve states that the Federal Reserve can only buy securities backed by the U.S. government. Well, in 2008, the federal government nationalized Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac with government-backed mortgages. So now there was a second option on the menu where the Federal Reserve can dump inflation. Thus, why we're having such a boom cycle since the end of the global financial crisis on real estate. Now there's a third avenue that the government can dump currency, and that's cryptocurrency or inflation into cryptocurrency with the Genius Act, because the Genius Act forces stablecoins to purchase 30-day treasuries. So now you have the stock market, you have the real estate, and now you have cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a derivative of fiat. Now it's a more free version of currency because it's decentralized and the government can't control it. So it's a short-term for stablecoins, short-term store of value because it follows the dollar. It's just a derivative of the dollar or the derivative of the euro. There is no difference between a stable coin and the dollar. And the only difference is that instead of the banks controlling the digital dollar, it's a decentralized platform that legally they have to own U.S. treasuries. So with that said, the future of money is going to be tokenized real world assets. We see that with BRICS. BRICS has been talking for the past 6-7 years about backing their own currency with a proportion of gold and silver. We think in the gold and silver community that's going to be at least 40% because economists have found that if you back any fiat currency with at least 40% gold and silver, it stabilizes that currency. James Rickards has an interesting theory that instead of going back to a true gold and silver standard where it's 1-to-1, there should be a floating standard with a 1.5% deviation. That if the currency has less than 1.5%, the treasury needs to buy more gold. If there is too much gold in the system, then they need to sell gold. I think that's an interesting way to back currency. I'm for just going back to real money, gold and silver. And there's more than enough gold and silver for the economy. The reason why people don't think there is because you're measuring gold and silver against the dollar. Now, the next thing is crypto as a transactional tool and an investment. Everything else except for gold and silver is an investment. It's gold. Bitcoin is probably one of the best human-made investments in history. However, all cryptocurrency is dependent upon fiat injection. It's supply and demand. And the way that you want to figure out when you want to get in and out of stocks, real estate, bonds, any asset, is you want to think of gold and silver as a central monetary unit of which all other assets measure itself. So you want to do a gold ratio of 1 ounce and gold ratio of a silver ounce against that asset. I posted a link in the chat from an X post by North Star. It's a company called North Star Bad Chart. There's 2 technical analysts. They have identified a trend throughout the United States over the last 150 years, something called the capital rotation event. A capital rotation event is when I think it's 12. There's 12 boxes. Those 12 boxes represent different asset classes. The DXY, S&P 500, NASDAQ. And when all 12 of those boxes are checked off, that means we're in a capital rotation event. And what is a capital rotation event? It's when all assets are in a bear market against gold and silver. For over a year and a half, 10 of those boxes were checked off. The last 2 were the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. They were still in a bull market against gold. Just this past month, those 2 boxes were checked off, signifying that we are finally in a capital rotation event. And for the next 8 to 10 years, gold and silver will outperform every other asset class. This has happened 3 other times in U.S. history. This is the 4th gold and silver bull market, and gold and silver bull markets typically last a decade. And you can look into that. That's historically accurate. And I think because of what's going on and the fact we're in a global fiat system, the central banks and the major institutions are going to try to do everything they can to prevent their collapse. We're not going to see a collapse. We're going to see a transition, a new world order of currency and a monetary system. We're already seeing it playing out in Europe, where they're preventing European citizens from pulling out more than, I think, 3,000 euros in cash. They're trying to transition to a completely digital currency, and that is the future, whether you like it or not. Now, what's going to make the difference is whether that currency is controlled by a central entity or if it's going to be decentralized. Our position at Citizens for Sound Money is that gold and silver are freedom. Why are gold and silver freedom? Because the governments cannot print gold and silver into oblivion. They cannot control the supply and demand. It puts constraints upon government. Previously, when I have a lot of talking points, and I'm obviously not going to be able to get through them, but
that's great. Keep going.
Yeah, so gold and silver constrains government when it comes to war. It constrains government when it comes to welfare programs.
Yes.
It is a check against government power and overreach, passively. There's really nothing else that can passively do that. When empires and countries wanted to go to war, they had to do one of 2 things. They either had to increase taxes and take gold and silver from the people to fund their wars, or they had to issue gold and silver war bonds, and the people chose if they wanted to give money towards the war. That was the check against the government for endless wars. When we got off a gold and silver standard,
Yeah.
or we had a standard like Bretton Woods, where the United States said they had so much gold, and then they printed more dollars so they can fight in Vietnam and grow in the Cold War, that doesn't work. And that's why we're not really a big fan of the government having a backed currency, because they can just continue to print currency into oblivion, continue their endless wars, continue their welfare programs without constraint. A true gold and silver economy constrains government and gives more freedom and liberty to the people. So let me see what else we're talking about.
Let me ask
There's
you
a
this real
question why
quickly.
diamond. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, diamonds. Why gold and silver? Why? What's so important about them? And I think Felicia has a question as well. So let me just. I think diamonds they've been able to duplicate. So diamonds have lost their value. I mean, I know there's a difference between real, but and the what are the ones they're manufacturing now?
The fake ones, yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
it's just
Anyway.
man-made, man-made. Yeah.
So those are lose value. But
Just
anyway, I just wanted
quickly
to
answer
point.
that.
Say again.
To quickly answer why
Yeah,
diamonds aren't sound money, what are diamonds made of? What
cold, cold, pressure,
molecule? Carbon.
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 Carbon is the most common molecule in the universe. It's not scarce. It just you need a little bit of pressure, and diamonds have
Yeah,
been artificially
and you can make them.
yeah, no, they've been artificially the supply has been artificially suppressed by the De Beers Corporation. So they have more diamonds than you can think of in a vault all around the world, and they just release little here, little there. And what really made diamonds take off was in the 80s when they started connecting diamonds to emotions, wedding rings. And if you really love your wife, you're going to get her a diamond, and that is what caused diamonds to go up in value. To me, diamonds are worthless. When they come into I opened up a coin shop, I throw diamonds away. I mean,
Oh,
yeah, they might have some value, but diamonds aren't worth anything to
But
us. I mean,
diamonds are a
it's
girl's best friend.
yeah, that right there is what the 80s was the Beers Corporation best marketing tool to ensure that diamonds seem valuable.
All right,
So
why don't you give Felicia opportunity?
yeah,
Can you hear me okay?
We can
yeah,
hear you.
you're
yeah.
a little low, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so how do you go about assessing or auditing the gold? And then how's that work when, as a government, you take that into account, far as if we
Good
were to
question.
switch over to that, um, that currency. Well, if we were to switch over to that backing, then how would that work if there were maybe other countries that might have, a lot of gold reserves or something like that? Like, would we know where we stand as a government financially if we were to transition to that,
Yeah.
that type of
That's a
thing?
great question. So our position is that we believe the private sector does anything better than government. So right now there are companies that have tokenized gold and silver that are audited at least twice a year by third-party auditing companies that are reputable. And what we have been pushing, there are organizations out there trying to get state governments to create their own asset-backed digital currencies and running their electronic systems and creating depositories. We are against that because we don't trust government. I mean, just look at what happened during COVID. Do you really trust your state governments to make the right decisions for the people?
Mhm.
No. So I don't trust even the state governments to run our gold and silver reserves. I do trust the incentive of private companies to not go to prison for the rest of their lives and defrauding the people. Let's say they do defraud the people. We just throw them in prison and we take all their assets or they go out of business. That's the free market. And that the government's role is to enforce the laws and to enforce contract law. That's really one of the main focuses of government. Anything beyond that, welfare programs, any other programs that the federal government is pushing, is beyond the scope of what government's supposed to do. The free market is there and it's very efficient. When the government meddles in the free market, when the government controls money, they're basically trying to control the people. gold and silver are freedom. And the way that you assess whether a company is trustworthy is not that they have attestations that they have gold and silver in their vaults. You have actual audits by third-party companies that are well known that they have gone into their vaults simultaneously, because to do that, like Kinesis has 13 vaults in 15 countries. When they do their audits, they have an auditor in every vault at the exact same time count the bars in gold, and it's in all the vaults right there, doing accounting of how much gold there is, how much silver there is in the vaults versus how much cryptocurrency or asset-backed digital currencies there are. That's the type of auditing that you need, not some lawyer saying, yeah, I went into the vault and there's gold in there.
Okay. Let me see. So gold and silver. So, but if you're going to take possession of gold or silver, there's a number of different ways. I mentioned coins or a bar of it or custody. Can you advise us a little bit on, maybe not advise is not the right word, but you want to give us an idea of the best way to secure your holdings if you're going to have any of these metals?
Don't tell anybody you have gold and silver.
That's
That's number
right.
one. Don't tell anybody you have gold and silver. And if you do tell people you have gold and silver, don't tell them where you have it. There are three primary ways that people hold gold and silver in their home. One is a safe. That is target number one for thieves. So what people do is sometimes they build false walls or they build rooms that are hidden where they're safe. You have to get behind a door or something, or they build a room around it where the safe can't get out, where there's not enough room to really get into it and torch it. Another thing is having a dummy safe that's out in the open to draw them in, and then you have another safe where you hide your real gold and silver. A third way is there's this CIA former CIA agent. What he does is he has these bags, they're like go bags full of gold and silver and cash, and he has like 15 different locations around his property where it's difficult to get to. It'll be inside of, like, for example, he had one bag of cash, and each bag is about a month's worth of cash. So he had his beans in his long-term storage, sealed underneath three other boxes behind like a bunch of crap. It took time. It takes time to get there. He says, if you are not, if you're not saying to yourself, I really don't want to dig for that gold and silver, then you haven't hidden it well enough, right? So that's another way. And there's a fourth way. I actually have a customer who has banana trees and other plants, and he actually buries his gold and silver deep enough, and his cash, he vacuum seals his cash around his yard. And he knows exactly what trees he's hidden it. And there's different ways to do that. Now, not everybody's going to do that. I have
All
a
right.
safe.
What's a money tree look like then?
A money tree? Down here, it looks like a coconut tree.
Okay. So, all right, excellent. What about a safety deposit box at a bank? No.
I don't trust banks with safety deposit boxes because when the
No.
government finally decides to confiscate gold and silver, that's the first thing they get. The United States has actually confiscated gold 3 times in our U.S. history. In 1812, in the Civil War, and then 1933. They confiscated gold and silver. And it's always because of a national crisis. The War of 1812, the Civil War, and then the Great Depression,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Roosevelt.
You're
And
basically
right
saying
now,
keep your mouth shut. Don't tell what you own.
right.
Yeah.
Now
No,
there's 2 ways to protect your gold and silver. You can wear your gold and silver, right? They never confiscate jewelry. Or you can put them into great third-party graded capsules through a third-party graded company like NGC, PCGS, or Annex. Because once you get your gold and silver graded in the IRS, it's categorized as a collectible. It also increases the value with numismatic value. So there are people who actually get all their gold and silver graded, and then they classified as a collectible. The government has never confiscated collectibles and jewelry.
okay.
And don't put it in a safety deposit box
Yeah.
unless you have millions of dollars in gold bars, like 10, 20, 30 million dollars in gold bars, and then you don't want some third party to hold it, you think you trust the bank, maybe you can put it there, because having that much gold in your house, that's a major target.
Yeah. Oh God. You're scaring the hell out of
And I
me.
say that
But
because
not that I have any.
I know somebody in Florida that has a ton of like 400-ounce bars in safety deposit boxes at the bank. I'm like, you really trust the bank? He's like, where else am I going to put it? I'm like,
Mhm.
that's a valid point.
So we got a few more minutes. I just wanted to hit on a couple of things. The purchasing of oil without using US dollars, maybe as a quick topic. Maybe what's going on with Venezuela and energy and mining for gold or any kind of mining. And then I want to finish up with what Hoda, I think his name is Hoda, right?
Oh,
Coda talked about. I thought it was is very interesting. He talked about greed, and then if you just recap that a little bit. So why don't we just do, what's going on with US dollar purchase of oil? Is that a movement? And then let's go maybe to Venezuela. That's on everybody's radar. And then we'll close it out with a little bit about greed. You want to try that,
yeah.
Daniel? Is that good?
Yeah. So oil, that's been happening for a while. If you take the Federal Reserve out of the equation, the number one reserve currency on the planet right now is gold. It's no longer U.S. Treasuries. The world governments have been dumping U.S. Treasuries because of the way that the United States has used it as a weapon against Russia. And when that happened, the trust in the U.S. dollar and the U.S. Treasuries plummeted. So the global South, including Russia, which are the BRICS nations, are dumping the dollar and using their own currencies to buy oil. And because the U.S. has broken their trust against Saudi Arabia is no longer just taking dollars; they're taking other currencies for oil. What happened in Venezuela, it wasn't about the cartels. The cartels was just a legal reason to give Trump the right to go attack. The real reason is we're entering into a resource war. The resource wars is what's going to, if World War III happens, it's going to be a war about resources. We're going to see Russia, China, United States going after countries that are flush in resources, just like Venezuela. And I mean, there's other reasons for that too. Venezuela buys and sells oil to our biggest enemies, right? If you looked at what happened in Venezuela, Venezuela had missile defense from Russia, had radars from China, and had drones from Iran. All of our enemies. And by cutting off Venezuela, we also cut off something personal to me, all the support that Cuba had. Cuba got most of its support from Venezuela. And the way that Rubio and Trump are talking looks like Cuba might be next on the liberation. That's different. There's no real resources in Cuba other than location and the Cuban people in America. That's going to guarantee that Cubans are going to support Trump if we liberate Cuba. That's a completely different issue. But let's see, you have talked about oil resources.
Yeah, and then we talked about BRICS, and then using non-US dollars, and then
Right.
Venezuela, and then if you want to talk about freedom right quickly about Canada, the truckers and other targets, people that have been
Right.
targeted because of their either their political beliefs or their association with cryptocurrencies. And
Yeah.
is
So we have a unique problem in the West. When we think of persecution, we think of our bank accounts being shut down. We think about our freedom of speech not being recognized, freedom of religion. When the third world or the developing world thinks about persecution, they're thinking about their life being taken, right? So what happened in Canada, the oppression there, and what's happening in the United States and happening in Western Europe, that's different. Those are first world problems. Our rights are being taken away in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Africa, through in Asia. When people speak out against their regimes, it's their life being taken from them. It's their life. They're being thrown in prison. So it's different. Like a lot of Americans, like, well, let them rise up against their government. Well, regimes What regimes that are tyrannical, they take out the intellectuals, they take out any opposition, and they're really put the fear of God into their entire society. So they don't want to rise up. And gold and silver it would really help prevent that type of tyranny from taking hold, because you can't have endless wars. You can't bribe. You can't kill nonstop and fund your armies in that way. Now, there have been tyrannical governments during gold and silver periods, but these long-standing tyrannies, it's very difficult when you have free money. Cryptocurrency, gold, and silver provide people the liberty to leave their countries and still have their assets intact. Um,
I must say,
and
crypto can do that too.
Right, crypto can do that too.
Yeah,
Now, crypto is a derivative of the dollar, but it still provides freedom and liberty and freedom of movement. You can use crypto anywhere in the world. You can send
yeah.
cryptocurrency to anyone in the world for a fraction of the cost. You can't do that through bank wires. You can't do that through any other means, traditional means. So, in order of the freest money, it's gold, then silver, then crypto.
Okay, excellent. And then not the last thing, but I wanted to. I mean, you mentioned some of that gold and silver maybe being an excellent hedge about the volatility of oil. Does that does that ring a bell with you, or is that
Well,
something I picked up somewhere else?
I think you might have picked that up somewhere else, but typically when the capital rotation event that I mentioned earlier happens, you see all commodities go into a bull market against equities and currencies. So oil is being suppressed right now. I think oil is going to
Great.
take a similar move to gold and silver. Uranium, platinum, palladium, all the silver metals are taking off. Copper is going to take off. Now is the time to move into commodities. And the strongest commodities are gold and silver. Really, they're not really commodities, they're money. And silver acts more like a commodity because we have had a 5 year deficit of the amount of demand versus supply of silver, meaning we have been absorbing and using more silver and taking it out of play in the markets than we have been replenishing it with mining. That's the first time in world history where we've had a deficit in the supply of silver, and that's another reason why we're seeing this parabolic move in silver. There just isn't enough, and
Yeah.
when the bank like Bank of America on Monday said that silver could top out at $309. That means that they're expecting the traditional ratio of gold and silver to get close to where it has been. 15 ounces to one. Right now we're sitting around 60 ounces to one. So there is an opportunity to increase your gold. This is called the gold silver ratio, by putting your money in silver, waiting for the ratio to get low enough, and start selling as we go from 60 to 50 to 40 ounces and keep selling and buying gold. That's one way to increase your gold holdings. And once it's low to 15, then you wait for the ratio to increase and you put it into silver and you play that gold silver ratio and you
And
increase your money.
I do have to say this is not financial advice call. So, but Daniel, thank you. All right, real quickly, I was going to ask Paul to maybe ask or enlighten us on the usage of silver in batteries for one quick second. Then I want to let Daniel tell us where we could buy gold and silver out of his vault, and then which is located under some tree in his backyard. But anyway, and then finally we'll wrap up with greed. All right, Paul, you're on, buddy.
Yeah,
Tell us
Daniel
about
actually
silver.
shared an article with well, first and foremost, good to see you, but I shared an article with George, and I think it's Samsung that just launched a new battery that I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a kilogram of silver for every battery, and relating to EV charging, it's like a 9 minute charge and a very short charge, and I think a 900 kilometer range on a full charge. So I view it as a revolutionary. And so, I look at the price of silver on two fronts, right? There's the supply side, which there's been the underinvestment in all the mines, and You spoke about the differences between, money and effectively currency, and then the whole capital rotation. Well, silver was actually in a bear market against all these other asset classes for, geez, 20 years from 70s until early 90s, and then it bottomed out. And now we're finally breaking out of that. But so you got the demand side, which is going to start getting impacted because, yeah, people are going to start looking at alternatives to fiat. And then you got supply constraints in addition to the mines. Now you've got China limiting exports.
Yes.
So it's almost from my perspective, it's
So,
almost created a, perfect storm for
yeah.
this. And take it as you will, right? Take it as you will. But Patty is big into Patty's big into, numerology. Well, she's big into astrology, but numerology plays a figure too. Donald Trump is what president of the United States right now?
47.
47.
40.
What's the elemental number of silver?
47.
47. All right. He had the party in Mar-a-Lago. At the party in Mar-a-Lago, Melania Trump came out in a silver dress, and when she was actually coming out, they played the Lone Ranger song. What's the Lone Ranger's theme?
Hi ho
Hi
Silver.
ho
silver.
silver. I
Oh
mean,
my
how many
God,
how
that's
many
great.
coincidences before this is like just mathematically impossible? So I don't know. That's
All
what
right,
I
what's a
got.
kilogram? Translate for us what a kilogram of silver. What's that mean to me? What's that
As
mean
a
if
thousand
I'm, is it,
grams, so you want to divide 1,000 by 31.1035, and it's 32.15 ounces.
okay, there you go. So at let's say $100, that's a third. That just that element in that battery is 30 some hundred, 3,000 plus
Hmm.
dollars. All right, so that's good. And then tell us tell us what we can do. We are here in Columbia, South Carolina. Many of us are. And we want to buy or latch on to some gold and silver that we can actually hold. Is there anywhere we
Yeah.
can do that?
Well, my store is down in Sebastian, Florida, but my business partners are in Columbia, South Carolina. So we are buying and selling gold and silver in both Florida and South Carolina. So if you want to buy physical gold and silver, you can reach out to me. My number is 954. I'll type it in here: 695-7120, 954-695-7120, and just let me know what you want to order. We'll send you an invoice, and either I will ship it to you if we have an inventory, or my partners can meet up with you in Columbia, South Carolina.
Awesome. And then uh, I just want to wrap it up with Coda's expression about greed because I thought that was really good. It enlightened me in terms of how his perspective with, well, I'll let you just take it. If you remember what I'm talking about, at the end of the call, he talked about
Um,
he felt like he looked at what he had and he has a house and he's got the
yes,
farm and he's got he's got this and he's
I
got that.
remember
And he
that.
said, and I've started to put aside, and I'll let you take it from there if you remember. Um,
I rem- I remember the conversation. I remember the details because I'm also producing while people are
oh,
talking.
okay.
So
Well,
if I remember correctly, he's like, giving. There's greed, and if you're just storing wealth for yourself, what's the benefit, right? So when you should also set aside a certain amount to give to people in need.
yes.
And that's a very strong element in what Christ taught. To take the poor will always be with us, to take care of the poor. It's better to give than to receive. So,
Yeah.
and that's also, if you go back to the father of capitalism, he said that's the failure of capitalism when you bring greed into it. He was essentially saying throughout the wealth of nations that a capitalist society can only survive if they use Christian, Judeo-Christian morality and ethics, where the greed is not part of the equation. The reason we're seeing all this greed and all this corruption is because we're taking that morality, that ethic out of the equation of capitalism, and greed is the number one motive for most
Okay.
people now. So if we were able to flip the switch and start thinking, how can we give back to people in need? How can we be less greedy? We might see a better society
All
and a
right.
better capital.
I'm going to let anybody who wants to ask a question pop it in, and then let's get out of here. I got
Hey
stuff to
Daniel,
do.
I guess one other thing. What about the companies that I was running to you by? Like Alpine Gold, right? And some of these other ones. So George, another possibility is I know Daniel touched on, storage, but actually getting it vaulted with some of these other companies is another
Yeah.
possibility. And what I've been asking Daniel about is, well, in some ways there are ways to, to leverage that asset without having to sell it and even hold it
Yeah.
through loans and lines of credit using that asset as collateral.
Yeah.
So,
Alpine Gold allows you to do something called a Goldie lock. It's like a HELOC on your gold. So you can actually borrow against your gold at 2.4% a year, but you have to pay it back in gold. So if gold goes up 60%, you're gonna have to pay back the 2.4 plus the 60%, right? So
Ooh,
yeah. And
that sounds like never mind. That's another
A
topic.
trick.
All right, anybody else? Because let's get out of here. But I
Okay,
thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Daniel.
a
Anybody else?
question.
Go ahead, Patty.
A question and a comment. Okay, question. When you buy and sell, when you purchase gold and silver from you, are you actually getting the physical bar or coin?
yeah, we will have the physical bar and coin. I mean,
Okay,
we have thousands of ounces of silver. Not not as much in
under the
gold because
tree.
of the 61 a ratio, right? But we have several. We
Right.
have probably 50 ounces of gold, give or take, in different
Wow.
denominations.
You're not
Yeah,
supposed to tell us.
I was like, yeah, you
yeah,
just broke your own rule. Okay.
yeah. But we're a business and we're vaulted and we're
Oh,
insured.
where
So
where is the gold? Where is the gold? In Florida?
Under a banana
a very
tree.
secure facility.
This is going to be a documentary how we hunted down Daniel. Okay, and then just a comment. Thanks, your presentation was great. I did a refresh, and the Supreme Court is ruling on a decision or giving decisions today, but not on the tariffs.
Ah, crap.
Okay.
Okay. Well, then maybe that's a good thing. All
Uh,
right. Well, thank you so much, Daniel. You've been great and always a pleasure to talk with you. Happy New Year. As Reba says, Happy New Year to everyone. And thank you all so much for being with us. We'll see you next week.
Yay.
Thank
Thanks.
y'all.
Yeah.